everybody. Kim and Deani here. We are here to bring you some updated information and to kind of like dispel some myths, constantly dispelling myths and educating all of our clients and everyone that you can take this information and share with them because, we're all about trying to get everybody off the fence and realize that now is the time to buy.
I'm Kim Herrera with Keller Williams, and definitely right now, amazing opportunity for buyers. There's 15,000 homes for sale on the market. Homes are selling on average for 92% of what they were initially listed at. So what that means, if you're a buyer, there are opportunities out there. You can get price reduction from the seller. You can get the seller to buy down your interest rates. There's so many homes to choose from. New construction, they're offering incentives. Just to kind of put it in perspective, in 2021, we had about 4,000 homes for sale. 11,000 more to choose from.
Yeah, lots more inventory. There's so many differences between now and what was going on in COVID. And that's another thing that we're trying to make everybody understand is that, really this is what we're going into is kind of a mini COVID because once things change, once the system breaks, and it's not a crash that's going to break, it's going to be the gridlock. Some of you may have known that, we got 3% owners that don't want to come off of their properties unless they have to. So really we're looking at going into any change, any drastic change or even semi-drastic change is going to flood the market. And then we're going to be all over again, multiple contract situations.
We're definitely seeing that now where maybe a couple of years ago, 2023, a lot of sellers said they wanted to wait. They had a little rate. And what we're seeing now is a lot of those sellers that waited, now they can't wait any longer. I've seen sellers that have a rate in the twos, and now they're, whatever reason, a divorce, they got to move for a job. They never liked the house they bought during COVID, but it was the only one they could close on. So all kinds of reasons now where now people are like, enough's enough. Life happened. I need to move.
Yeah, I have a couple stories where I have a client of mine that, she owned her home first. We started off with refinancing back in COVID days, and we got her down to the 2.65%. And she came to me at the beginning of last year completely underwater in debt, and we had to use that equity to pay off her debt. And you know what? The combined interest rate reduction and the amount of savings, I took her from having like a $4,700 nut to crack monthly to $2,500, including the mortgage.
Wow.
So, it was just amazing what we can do. There's things that we can do to help those that may be stuck in that house, and maybe you have a 2% and you don't want to come off of it, but you have high debt. We can refinance you and save you money monthly. And then eventually, if you're not happy with that home, you can take that as a stepping stone because there's still equity in the home.
Yeah, what they say right now, over 50% of homeowners either own the home completely, or they own over 50% of their home right now since prices went up. So we're not going to see a return to 2008. Definitely strong market.
Yeah, so that's definitely not going to happen going to 2008. What we're seeing is more of a transactional recession rather than a housing recession or a housing crash. We're not expecting that whatsoever. There's some stats that tell us that, there's a big difference between what was going on back then and what's going on now. Back in 2008, we had, high sales volume, high collapsing prices, or high sales volume and collapsing prices. We had a exploded supply. Inventory was flooding the market. Credit quality was weak. So the paper we were writing was bad. And adjustable rate resets, which is just like that perfect storm of things that caused that crash to happen. We have none of that happening right now. So today, what we have going on is we've got locked-in home ownership sitting on 3% mortgage rates, record homeowner equity, going back to what you were saying. We've got so much equity in our homes right now, nobody knows what to do with it. We're here to guide you, to tell you what is best to do with it or advise you what is best to do with it. And then extremely tight underwriting. So going back to 2008, fog a mirror, get a mortgage. This is, give me a drop of blood or a strand of hair and you get a mortgage. It's really hard to get a mortgage now. So things have changed quite a bit.
Yes. And I know there's a lot of buyers on the fence right now. I mean, kind of touching on what I said earlier, now's an amazing time to buy. If you think of, like, say, the stock market, for example, like the S&P 500 has gone up historically over time, going back decades. And it's the same with real estate. It goes up 4%, appreciates every year. Yes, we did see a dip in the market. Like 2021 was unusual times with the pandemic. Like last time we had a worldwide pandemic was like around what 100 years ago, and so the market, we had those sub two rates and everything, a lot of factors. And now we're seeing a price correction that wasn't sustainable, and so what that means is, like they say, if you're investing, you buy the dip, you buy low and you sell high.
Mhm.
And so right now that there's so much opportunity and you can get those rates, you can get the seller buyer to buy down your rate. You can get those incentives. You can get price reductions. You can get the seller to pay for repairs. Now's the best time to buy a home. Like, buy now, buy the dip, and then it's going to go back up. Like if you're investing in crypto, I'm sure you're familiar with, kind of similar concept.
Yeah. Going back to what you were just saying, the difference is like what you're seeing in the headlines is all scare tactics, and it's unfounded because they're dropping it. They're dropping it right before they get into some nitty gritty facts that really explain what's going on. Right now, we're seeing low sales volume, just as what they're announcing in the news for January sales, the lowest. We've gone from in the 40s to to where the differential is huge. Well, that was an anomaly. Those times of COVID were an anomaly. The sales volume was off the chart. We were insanely busy trying to keep up. But we also had 20, 30 contracts come in on an offer and multiple offer situations. Everybody's walking away discouraged, or they've got the house. One person gets that house. But it doesn't mean that our home sales are falling. It means that we are running stable because our inventory was already short. Now we have, enough inventory to handle the ones that are out there shopping. We do not have enough inventory to house the population in the United States. That is the issue, because as soon as something changes, we're going to start to see everybody flood the market again, and then it's going to be a mini COVID. That's what I was saying about earlier about a mini COVID, is that everybody's going to come out of the woodwork. You're not going to have that seller opportunity where sellers paying your closing costs, all of it. I'm getting $10,000, $12,000 on contracts for $300,000 contracts. I mean, that's all of your closing costs, and then some. Maybe some to buy down the rate. It's insane. This is the time to buy, because that opportunity will not be here when rates come down or another shift happens. The falling prices, that expectation shouldn't be there, because we're just keeping stable right now. What can you say about that? I mean, you see that right, up front and personal.
Yeah, and it's interesting because consumer sentiment, like back when it was the best time to sell, like ever, like historically, sellers were afraid to sell. They were afraid they wouldn't have a house to move into, was the main fear. And so sellers were afraid to sell. And then when there was record high prices, buyers were offering as much as $10,000 over a house. There's top agents in my brokerage. We meet and discuss what's working, what's not, strategize. People are having to offer as much as 10% over the price just to get the house in COVID times. Right now, it's the opposite. Right now, the stats are showing if you want to get your home, if you just want to get it sold, you have to offer as much as 10% under what the market's telling you. And now, where it's the best time to buy, a lot of buyers are on the fence. They're scared of buying, like, oh, there must be something wrong with the housing market if nobody's buying. It's like you have to go the opposite.
Well, and a lot of that fear is because they haven't reached out to a professional to see what they can do, because they think, oh, well, the rate's around 6%, they can't afford it. Well, they don't really know, because they haven't reached out to your finance professional to say, hey, you actually can't afford it. You can't afford it. And maybe you own a home already, and maybe you have credit cards and your home. Well, we can pay that credit card debt off and maybe make a shift in consciousness here where maybe you don't have all that extra debt going into the house. Take that extra money, or maybe even half of that credit card debt that won't get paid off on a month-to-month basis if you're paying the minimum payment, and put that towards, pay that all off with the proceeds of your current home. And then you've got a chunk of money to use on your current for the next home. And you've got, a little bit more that you've got that debt paid. You've got plenty of money to handle a next purchase. it doesn't matter that you have that 2% if you're so far in debt because you've got so much equity and you didn't do anything about it with, a debt consolidation. Well, it just is a matter of just strategizing and getting with your professional to strategize. Get with Kim, get with myself, and we can help you strategize on what's the best way to handle your situation if you really want to move. A lot of people want to move and they just are afraid. There's a lot of fear going on right now.
But it definitely helps to have someone that can take the time and sit down with you and just really go over your personal situation, exactly what's going on, and someone that has your best interest in mind and really just kind of strategizes and helps you solve, whatever needs to be solved so you can get into that home.